Commencement addresses are not easy. I do a lot of public speaking, but there's something uniquely challenging when attempting to shoehorn a lifetime of wisdom into a 10 to 12-minute address. I'm a radio person. In my frame of reference, that means that I've been allotted an amount of time to deliver a message that totals somewhere between Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven, which clocks in at 8 minutes and 2 seconds, and Leonard Skinner's Freebird, which is 14 minutes and 56 seconds long. By the way, if those songs are lost on you, you can ask your parents about them later. Or maybe instead, I should say that a commencement address is like trying to cram all of Two Friends' Big Booty Mix Volume 17 into a 3-minute track to be played on radio. In other words, it's not easy. In any other year, I can imagine a speaker in my position encouraging you to relish in your academic success, find good jobs, establish a career, pursue happiness. Today, it's not enough that you go forth and prosper in your chosen scientific professions. This year, that's only what I would call a good start. Sure, celebrate with your family, at least those who know how to operate Zoom. This is as much their success as it is yours. And then apply yourself to continued education or a new job or continued job search, which I'm sure is difficult in these times. But once you have your footing, it's time to engage your citizenship. Your graduation will now and forever have dual meaning. You have something in common with graduates from 1929, 1941, 2001, and 2008. In your case, the year 2020 will represent both the culmination of great academic achievement and connote the spread of a pandemic. I'm hoping the linkage between the two will prove longer lasting than just the disruption caused in your final college semester. Instead, I encourage you to draw inspiration from these events, that they might help you find your public voice. Unlike the Great Depression, the start of World War II, events of 9/11, or the banking failures of just over a decade ago, this crisis has uniquely positioned the scientific community, now your community, in the center of public debate. I'm sure when at some point in the past 4 years you decided to study biology, chemistry, pharmacology, or another discipline, you never envisioned that your future profession would become the world's political focus. But it has. We're living in an era where the cable television networks in a presidential election year are spending much of their time debating the efficacy of hydroxychloroquine and estimating the due date of a life and economy-saving vaccine. Public servants and the public face a learning curve in addressing these issues that many of you have already surmounted. Too many in positions of authority lack your preparation to analyze scientific information and make critical decisions in the nation's interest. That includes politicians and the media. People like me are regarded as political scientists. Heck, we got where we are by taking your core courses pass-fail. Now our worlds have collided. Armed with the skill set that comes from studies at the University of the Sciences, many of you will become involved on the front line in this and future threats to public health. It's not enough that this be some of your vocational pursuit. It must also be all of your civic duty. Even before the pandemic, we were experiencing an ignorance and debasement of science. The most pressing questions of our time, think climate change, food, water security, matters of healthcare, were too often being solved with ideology and not evidence. You want to know the 5 words I'd like to hear more often from elected officials? What does the data say? The pandemic has magnified the illogic of the status quo. Consider the career experience of the current United States Senate. Of the 100 senators, only 6 report experience in science or medicine. 49 have law degrees. There are just as many real estate agents and developers, 5, as there are healthcare professionals. In a time when we need quick and correct action on matters of public health, only 5% of senators have any experience working in those fields. It's no wonder when confronted with a pandemic, our government experts turn to the experts in your fields for answers. How great it would be if the office holders were the experts. I'm asking you to be what Teddy Roosevelt called the person in the arena. In a now famous quotation, the former president urged his readers to dare greatly despite the possibility of failure, lest they be relegated to a class of timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. In his view and in mine, it's so much better to be inside the ring. Of course, this is also an era marked by great political divide. Too often we allow our debate to be hijacked by the loudest, not necessarily best informed. Should you follow my advice in the arena, you will come in contact, as I do routinely, with those who disagree with you. There will be the temptation to disregard these players as the opposition or even the enemy. Don't do it. That's lazy and well below the intellectual integrity of graduates from an institution such as yours. Instead, use these interactions as another opportunity to better yourself and your work. Are you not a better student and person because of the diverse set of peers and faculty with whom you've studied these past few years? Would you have learned the same amount in an impenetrable, homogeneous echo chamber? There's strength in numbers, and there's strength in intellectual diversity. As John Stuart Mill reminds us in his chief work on liberty, when we're confronted with an opinion we disagree with, two things can happen. We're reminded why we hold our beliefs so strongly, and we learn how to more aptly defend it, or we are convinced there's another way. Remember, compromise is not concession. Compromise is not weakness. It's the ultimate strength. Communication is an undervalued skill, and I can tell you, as someone who hears from people across the country on our nation's most complex issues, people will surprise you. You just need to give them the opportunity to do so. And civic engagement need not mean running for office. We're not all cut out for it. There are so many other ways for you to contribute to your communities. If you're looking to revolutionize science or medicine or politics, there's hope. A study published in Science in 2018, designed by Damon Centola of the University of Pennsylvania, sought to determine what percentage of a total population a minority needs to reach the critical mass necessary to reverse a majority viewpoint. Guess what it was? The tipping point is just 25%, meaning a small minority can be really effective. While the author warns of how this low threshold for revolution could prove dangerous in the wrong hands, this finding should encourage all of you. If you don't like what you're seeing in the world, and there's plenty to dislike, you have the power to change it. There's no question we are in, as Timothy Cardinal Dolan would say, troubling times. This was true well before the onset of COVID-19, the pandemic. Society needs your knowledge. The public requires your contribution. As President John F. Kennedy said in his inaugural address, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hours of maximum danger. I do not believe any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. He was right. Please be vocal. Be active. Stand up for science. And finally, thank you for having me. I know that sounds cliche. When invited to speak to any group, much less a commencement, it seems proper to thank your audience for the honor. But I mean it. You've just afforded me 10 minutes to speak to future citizens whose contribution will matter most. Good luck.